Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. Joseph Smith planned for 100,000 people to be packed in a very small area of Independence, Missouri. How would he keep people healthy? David Hall is the chairman of Hall Labs and has some amazing medical devices, water purification systems, and other things that we're going to talk about, including transportation, clean transportation. So you won't want to miss this episode. Check it out.
I wanted to mention a little bit about how this has really you've spun off businesses. You've got electric car business. You've got these lift things, these smart toilets, even the water purification. We're talking about global warming now, and especially here in the West, we've got a big problem with water. And you were talking about how to reuse the water that we use. You talked about you referred to it as gray water and black water. Can you tell us a little bit what's the difference between gray water and black water, or
so for instance,
gray waste and black waste?
Yeah, the reason why we run out of water is, number one, like I said, is the farmers' poor use of water, right? But for us, in our homes, where we're using water, if we ignore our lawns, okay, the lawns are the biggest problem, is our toilets and our showers.
And our hot water heater.
Right, well, but that goes to the shower and
Right.
the washing machines and stuff like this.
Right.
If we developed appliances that recycled all of it, and you didn't get any water, all right, it just went round and round and round. And if you had a fuel cell running on hydrogen that generated the water for you,
Okay, we need to talk about that.
now you're totally off grid, right? And that's all technically feasible, and we have companies and projects that are working on all those. So black water is what comes from the toilet. So we, to recycle that and get it back to rain and pure water, you've got a lot of problems to get rid of, right?
Right.
So you heard lots of words on that, of pyrolysis and all these kind of things that we're doing. But the gray water, that's kind of germy, and messed up and got soap in and all kinds of problems, so you don't want to recycle that unless it goes through a rainmaker, right? So all of these things need to be tackled, but they're all technically, the New Vista community is greener than anything we're currently talking about.
Yeah. So rather than water going down your toilet and down your sink and down your drains,
There's no sewer.
There's no sewer. You're just reusing what you've already got.
Yeah, and that's why we have this easement under like you saw, this very specific easement for all those appliances.
Right. And so basically, because I was talking about it, this is a big problem for astronauts. There's no sewer system in space.
They have to recycle.
And they have to recycle, they have to do it, and, some of that urine becomes drinking water, which sounds really gross to us, but what else are you going to do in space, right? I mean, you've got to recycle that. And so a lot of the things you're working on are very applicable, not just to the space program, but the problems we're having here in the West is with drought and that sort of a thing.
Yeah, and RVs and things like that really need it as well. Tiny homes need it, off-site, off-the-grid places need it.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think that's one of your companies that you're trying to market to is for campers, because nobody likes to dump out the toilet.
And you're always running out of water, and you never get to take a long enough shower.
Right.
So if you have our Evershower, it just keeps going around.
Yeah.
Right? And
so you could actually camp and never run out of hot water.
Never run out of water.
Take an hour shower.
Right. That's where we're going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I love how you're taking these problems, these problems that we have, and you're making marketable businesses out of them.
You have to, or otherwise you run out of money, right? So you have to. That's what we forget about when it comes to when we think of creating Zion. We think we can do it by purity and command. That's nuts. You'll never get there. Never get there, except for this teeny tiny minority of the population. No, make it market driven where everybody wants it. They're going to run to it, right? It's just like make the stadium, right? Have people coming, run into it. They might not join the church, but they'll join the community. And if they join the community, they've already done the first law because they don't own anything. That's the first requirement. That's before baptism. Read our own scriptures. That's a requirement before baptism. So you got all these people coming in and having to live at least that part because they want part of the mansion, right? They're 2/3 of the way there. They've given up their greed. They've given up all these kind of other things, right? And they're part of the mansion. They don't have a big house in the hills, right? 40,000 square feet with a whole bunch of solar cells, and they say they're green. Give me a break, right?
So, I'm trying to think of what would the critics, you probably know the critics' questions more than I do. Are you an environmentalist? Are you a communist? Or, what?
No, I just like to get something done.
Right.
So what excites me, and you probably saw that on the tour, is getting a project done and getting it out so people can do. Now, once the company just gets into production, I'm not interested anymore, right? And so, got to move on to the next issue, right? So we talked before about how in the heck do we do enough food on a half an acre?
I'm glad yeah.
Well, there's neat things coming out. The interesting thing, the technology that is going to get us to that solution is the cannabis people. People growing cannabis. There's greater technology there than anywhere about getting yield per square foot.
Right.
Huge. And so follow that. Follow what's called vertical farms. Follow what's called permaculture, but not just permaculture alone. Permaculture combined with aquaponics. And follow worm farms and shrimp farms. There's lots of things coming together that will make us able to feed 100 people on a half an acre.
A half an acre?
Half an acre.
That's crazy. So how do we do that? Can you...
So you have, if you'll look on our New Vista website, the ponds for the fish, for the aquaculture, are at the lowest level of the block. 2 half-acre lots that are there in the plat, and Frederick G. William put those 960 lines in laboriously. I did it on CAD, right? So he did it all. So there's something to it, right? So there's 960 apartment buildings, 960 different farms. So you have variety galore in your fish, in your vegetables, in your fruits, in your, the animals like chickens and others, right? And it just goes around. And it feeds itself, and it's layered. That's what vertical farming is. It's LED lights, not just solar. And there's actually quite a bit out there already. So we'll definitely be going after all that. So we're setting up a company to specialize in that.
Wow. I've kind of mentioned the car factory. That was so cool because I feel like you're Tesla. You've got a company.
But we're not.
You're not. You've got a company that's called Bandert Hall.
Yeah, my son Steven started that company about 8 years ago.
Okay, and they're electric and gas, but you're trying to phase out the gas.
Yeah.
Tell us more about how you put those together. I remember looking and I said, "There's no assembly line here," like Henry Ford. Henry Ford was the great car guy, and it was because he had assembly lines. And in a way, it's an assembly line, but it's different.
Yeah, what's the part of New Vista that Stephen has solved for me is I can't see as a scalable system for the world the way we're currently going right now towards huge gigafactories. We're just totally dependent on China for something, or Germany or whatever. everything comes from that gigafactory, right? So we needed to figure out, and cars is a big one. Okay, take a car and figure out how to do it on just a few $1 million of capital. And that's what Stephen figured out. And so what he figured out is the whole frame is done from just a sheet of aluminum, flat sheet of aluminum. All the body parts are made from flat sheets of plastic. And it's just, you saw it, it's just amazing how it just goes together, right? Like a puzzle. Very accurately and stronger than a punched frame. And you can set up a factory like his for hardly anything to do another car. So you saw he's doing his Carmels and Venices and stuff like this in one plant. Now he's got a duplicate plant he's built next to it where he's going to do the Brawley.
Which is a truck.
Yeah, with the ATV electric thing. Well, he can just keep doing that, right? So a few years from now, he can have 20 different ideas, but it's the same thing, right? A laser.
You're using lasers to cut
lasers to cut, yeah. And you saw how accurate it was.
Yeah.
I mean, but there's no punch press. You didn't see a punch press. You didn't see any molds.
Right.
You didn't see any of that stuff that is in a gigafactory.
There's not even paint.
There's no robots. You didn't see one robot, did you?
That's correct.
Not one robot.
Yeah.
So he has cracked for the automobile industry and just vehicles in general, and a lot of even small things like ATVs and stuff like that. He's cracked that nut. You do not have to have billions of dollars to set up a car company. He's profitable at only $40 million in sales.
And you make 6 cars a day? Is that right?
About 6 cars a day.
6 cars a day. And so, it was just so cool to walk through there. It wasn't noisy. It was dead quiet. I think we probably would have.
Yeah, you were after the shift. Yeah.
So, wow, it was just cool. But the idea here is, and this is what I want to bring it all back, because the technology that you're using is just cutting edge, at least from my perspective. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're doing it cheaper than everybody else. But the idea here is we've got this plat back in the city of Zion, the New Vistas.
Yeah, see, Zion has a bad name.
Yeah.
All right, because there's Zionism, there's all kinds of things. So when you say that, when you use that word, people go in zillion different directions, right? There's some people that think we're going to march back to independence, right?
Right.
And that's Zion. That's nuts, but that's what some people think. And so you don't want to use that word. I learned that really quick years and years and years ago.
Okay.
So the reason why I say New Vistas is it's new, and it just happens that one of the prescriptions is that everybody have a clear view. No apartment ever looks at another apartment. They say 600 feet, right?
Okay.
So it's a vista, and it's a new concept. And then if you look at all the problems that you have to solve to make that work, you never run out of problems, right? There's always something else to work on.
So we've got transportation, but the idea is that every community builds their own cars, they make their own food, they recycle their own water, they build their own appliances.
They do their own energy.
It's all self-sustaining. I mean, you can't get any more Mormon than we're self-sustaining,
Yeah,
right?
one of the prescriptions that says it has to supply itself, right? And then it's so casual. It sits there saying, well, when you get one done, and supplied, then do another in like manner, and fill up the world. Just fill up the world. So
you're playing consecration, self-sustaining, which everybody's got a job.
Stewardships.
We're taking care of the environment.
Yeah.
We're staying healthy with the healthy toilets and the water conservation, and it's all encompassing. Like it really is.
Yeah, and that's the whole idea of the restoration, right? Is all encompassing. It's not just religion.
Right.
It's not just ordinances. And we were afraid of taking on the whole thing. So we'd rather just be a Sunday school, right? In fact, let's not even do activities, right? And let's not go camping. Let's just do Sunday, right? That's, but that's where we're going. But gee whiz, we've got God's lawyers, the McConkeys, telling us all these problems that we have, right? And so it just goes on and on and on. And we've got this nest egg that's huge, right? This can be attacked. So we got to simplify everything to pretty soon it's nothing, right? But when you take on the whole monster, you can't be central or just too big a thing to go after, right? So you got to subdivide into legally and financially independent stakes, right? Or communities, right? And you don't want to be a city because then you have to do laws. And then you can't do unto Caesar, right? And that was a mistake Joseph Smith made. He wanted to do the law and he shouldn't have ever touched it. No, you're just a gated community. You pay taxes. You don't ever try and take on the law. You're a gated community and you've got bylaws and you've got your own system. But, it's not a city. You don't want what we think of city.
Well, and I love that it's so, all of this stuff you're working on, we can use today.
Yeah.
And you're spinning it off and,
It wouldn't work if we didn't do it that way. Yeah. You can't take on the whole thing. You go broke, just like they did in Kirtland. And, what I was learning in Vermont, right?
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with David Hall, chairman of Hall Labs. In our next conversation, we're going to find more about David's father, Tracy Hall, who was quite an inventor himself.
My dad invented how to make diamond from carbon. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
Right? And he left GE where he did it and accepted a job at director of research for BYU. They couldn't pay him squat, right?
If you'd like to hear the entire interview uncut, please subscribe to patreon.com/GospelTangents for just $5 a month. Patreon is spelled patreon.com/GospelTangents. If you'd like to watch the entire video, you can subscribe at YouTube, Patreon, or on my website at GospelTangents.com and click the yellow subscribe button for just $8 a month. PDF transcripts are just $10 a month, and you can get those on patreon.com/GospelTangents or on my website. I'll send those to you as soon as I've finished completing it. If you'd like to get a paperback and PDF, just subscribe for $20 a month at either Patreon or on my website. Individual paperbacks are available at Amazon.com. Just do a search for Gospel Tangents interview, and you can find all of our past interviews there. Show your Gospel Tangents pride by purchasing a t-shirt on our website at gospeltangents.com/shop. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts at tinyurl.com/gospeltangents. You can get our latest updates by friending me at Facebook, or you can also follow our page at facebook.com/gospeltangents. Become an insider and you can see the newest videos. Follow us on Twitter at GospelTangents. Click here to subscribe, here for a transcript, and over here we've got some of our great videos. Thanks again.